Ladies and gentlemen, once again welcome back to our channel, and the topic for today's COBOL tutorial is COBOL continuous statement versus COBOL next sentence. The entire presentation is divided into three sections. First one is introduction. In this section we will focus on the three different logical structure of a COBOL program, that is sequence, selection and iteration. Apart from that, we will also look at various scenarios where you can use COBOL continuous statements and if required COBOL next sentence. And in second section we will focus on two important points. First one is COBOL continuous statement definition and COBOL continuous statement syntax details. In third section again we will focus on two important points. First one is definition of next sentence and next sentence syntax detail. And in last section we will look at couple of examples so that you can understand how and when to use COBOL continuous statement or COBOL next sentence. So ladies and gentlemen, before I start with today's presentation, I would request you all to do subscribe to our channel because we need your support to grow our channel. And in case if you have already subscribed to our channel, then I would like to say a big thank you for your subscription. So let's get started with introduction. COBOL programs are generally made up of three logical structure. First one is sequence, second one is selection, and third one is iteration. So for sequencing, you generally use perform statement, and for selection, you use if-else statement or evaluate statement, and for iteration, you generally use perform until statements. And each logical structure has one entry point and one exit point. The business logic of the COBOL program is designed with the help of these three logical structure. And while writing the program logic, there are situations where you do not want the program to do anything for a specific condition. For example, you are using COBOL if-else statement, and in the else portion you do not have any specific logic that needs to be executed. So in such situation you can use end if statement to terminate the condition. But if you have similar situation in nested ifs, then you cannot use end if statement because it will terminate your condition in the middle of the entire logic. So in such situation you are only left with one option, that is COBOL continue statement. The continue statement in COBOL is used to transfer control to the next executable instruction after an explicit scope terminator. Similarly, you can also use COBOL next sentence to transfer control to the next executable statement after the period. Now, the significant difference between COBOL next sentence and COBOL continue statement is that COBOL continue statement transfer control after the explicit scope terminator, and COBOL next sentence transfer control after the period. Finally, in layman term, both next sentence in COBOL and continue statement in COBOL simply transfer control to the next executable statement. Now, let's move on to the next section where we'll discuss COBOL continue statement in detail. Now, let's look at the definition of COBOL continue statement. So, COBOL continue statement is a no operation statement and it does not have any effect on the execution of the program. It indicates that no executable instruction is present, and control will transfer to the next executable instruction after an explicit scope terminator. For example, end if and evaluate, etc. You can simply use the word continue in the if or else or evaluate statement when you do not want anything to be done for that condition. You can also use COBOL continue statement anywhere in the condition or any of the imperative statement. Now let's look at the syntax of COBOL continue statement. So if you look at the right hand side of your screen, you'll see a if-else condition where I've used that word continue. So as and when you do not have any specific logic that needs to be performed in if or else portion of this condition, then simply you can use the word continue. So it will automatically transfer control after the explicit scope terminator. Now let's move on to the next section, that is COBOL next sentence. So as I mentioned in my previous slide, the next sentence in COBOL transfer control to an implicit statement immediately following the next separator period. COBOL next sentence does not transfer control to the logically next COBOL statement as it occurs in the case of COBOL continue verb. It is equivalent to COBOL goto statement. I hope this makes sense to you, and in case if you have any doubt, then do mention that in the comment section and I'll respond back after this presentation. Now let's look at the important point which is associated with COBOL next sentence. So if you specify next sentence with an explicit scope terminator, for example endif, so in that situation control does not pass to the statement following the endif. Instead, control will be passed to a statement after the closest following period. Now, let's look at the syntax of COBOL next sentence. So the syntax of COBOL next sentence is fairly simple and easy to understand. And if you look at the right hand side of your screen, you'll see an if condition where I've used the next sentence. And remember, I've not used the end if, I've used the period, right? And in next example, I've used the next sentence in the else portion of the if else condition. And again, I have not used the end if, I've just used the period, right? You can very well use end if, but in that case the control will only transfer after the period, whenever it will encounter the first period, right? Last but not the least, I want to highlight one more important point, that these days we often use continue statement. Next sentence you'll find in old programs which was written in 70s or 80s, because this feature was available with COBOL 75 if I'm not mistaken, right? Now let's move on to next section, that is example section, and I'm going to show you how you can use continue statement and next sentence, and how exactly control will flow when you use COBOL continue statement and when you use COBOL next sentence. Now let's look at COBOL continue statement example. So the first example is if else condition, where I'm just checking for an employee salary amount. So the condition says if employee salary is greater than 5,000, then you just continue to the next executable statement. So the control will going to transfer to the next executable statement where I'm checking for employee marital status, right? Okay, now let's look at the second example. So in second example, I've used the same condition, but this time I have not used the explicit scope terminator. I've just used the period, right? So it says employee salary amount is greater than 5,000, then display the salary amount, otherwise continue, right? So first thing is I could have included, because I don't want to do anything in the else portion. So first thing what I can do is I can simply put an end if condition to terminate my condition, or maybe a period. But just for the explanation perspective, what I've done is I've just included a continue statement. It's actually not doing anything. It simply pass control to the next executable statement, that is the next condition where I'm checking the marital status of a customer. Now let's look at COBOL next sentence example. So in the first example, I'm using the same condition where I'm just checking for employee salary. If it is greater than 5,000, then I'm not doing anything, otherwise I would be printing the salary of an employee. And in this case, I have not used explicit scope terminator. In fact, I've used the period. So control will be transferred to the next condition where I'm checking for employee marital status. And in last example, I've used the same condition that says if employee salary is greater than 5,000, then I've used the next sentence. So it will transfer control to the display statement. Because I have not used the period, I have actually used explicit scope terminator. And as you know, the next sentence will always transfer control after the period. And in this example, the first period is encountered in the second condition after end if. And similarly, you can use COBOL continue statement in COBOL evaluate statement, or probably in nested if else conditions. So ladies and gentlemen, this marks an end to our today's presentation, and I would request you all to do subscribe to our channel, because we need your support to grow our channel. And in case if you have any specific question related to COBOL continue statement or COBOL next sentence, then please do mention in the comment section. I'm going to respond back after this presentation. Please don't forget to share your feedback in the comment section. Thank you so much.